I'm at one of my very favorite places, Mama's Happy. This nifty little store is full of all kinds of upcycled things, from furniture to jewelry to upholstery, and I just love coming here. It really actually does make me happy. I'm lucky enough to be with Amanda, who owns Mama's Happy, and she is going to help or teach us how to do some of this upcycling, right? Okay, but first, let's talk about the name of the store. How did you come up with Mama's Happy?
Well, I get asked that a lot, as you can imagine, and everybody, when they see the name, turns and says, oh, I know the saying, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, which is exactly where it came from.
Okay.
I didn't know what the store would end up carrying or would end up being, but I knew I wanted it to be a place where women could come and just be filled up, and whether they were contributing with things that they make or whether they were just coming to shop.
Well, I was just going to say that. That's what's so amazing about this place is it makes the shoppers happy, but the people who work here, I mean, you've taken these women who have all of these talents and they get to do what they love and make a living at it.
It has been a fantastic thing. When people ask how we've been so successful, that's exactly it. It's just providing really a platform for these women to do what they were already doing. They just didn't have a place to share it with the rest of us. So.
Well, I love it. I love it. So, okay, we are going to talk about chalk paints.
Yes.
One of the most amazing substances ever created, I think.
I think so too, actually, yeah.
So tell us, I know some of what's special about chalk paint, but talk to me about it. What exactly is it and how is it going to change my life?
All right, so it is going to change your life. I will start with that. So the beauty of it is that you don't have to do any priming or sanding or preparation to the surface. So many pieces of furniture that we're rescuing, these aren't fine antiques. We're taking things that people are setting out by the curb to get rid of or tossing in the dumpster because they don't see any value. And those are the pieces that you wouldn't spend the time or energy to try to strip down or refinish. But slapping a coat of paint on it and giving it a new life is absolutely worth your time.
Yes, because it's still a sturdy piece. It just maybe is not the right wood tone or even the hardware maybe just needs to be changed out, all of that.
Exactly right.
Okay.
It just opens up a lot of possibilities. And the finish that you get using the paint is so beautiful and it's so predictable. So what's nice about it is that you don't have to have skill. You truly do not have to be an artist.
Check, check. Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be just fine.
Okay, all right, perfect. And so one of the things we were talking about earlier is, and I still don't believe you on this, but I'm going to take your word for it, is there is no prep with chalk paint.
Truly, there is not any preparation. And what's great about that is that when you put that first coat on, it is going to adhere to any surface, no matter how glossy, no matter how shiny, it will stick to it.
What about like kitchen cupboards? So my kitchen is quite small and it takes a beating because I cook for 6 every day. Do I have to wipe those down, do you think? Because
the only thing I would do in a kitchen is any area that might be really greasy.
Okay.
Not that you would ever not have cleaned up the grease in your kitchen. But if there was any there, I might wipe that down with some mineral spirits. But other than that, you'll see just as we're painting today on kitchen cabinets, it goes right over.
Okay, good. Well, I'm excited. Let's get started. So what we have here is a kitchen cabinet door, it looks like.
Yes.
Now, where do these come from?
Well, you can find them a number of places. Cabinet shops many times will sell or sometimes even give away their sample doors or doors that had any kind of a defect. And if it had a defect, that's usually the ones that we want anyway. So we'll pick them up that way. Salvage yards many times will have them, but you can pick them up for as little as $1 a piece.
Wow.
Then it's fun to be able to take something like that and turn it into something that has a purpose.
Okay.
So what we'll do is start with just putting some paint on it. And again, I'm not doing anything to the board before I do that. And the beauty of Annie's paint is you don't have to have any technique to it, especially when you're doing this first coat. It's just a matter of getting the paint on the board.
Okay. It's covering really nicely. It's beautiful.
It's a medium-bodied paint, so it is very thick. Okay. So many times one coat is fine. I tend to enjoy putting a second coat on. I feel like it just sort of finishes it, but you will see many times, especially if you're not going over something that's dark, that you don't need to do a second coat.
Now, that brush, I've never really seen a brush. I mean, I have a brush similar to that at home, but I haven't seen one quite like that. Is there something special about that particular brush?
Well, customers always ask, do I need the brush to be able to use her paint? Absolutely not. Any brush will do.
Okay.
But is it great to have awesome tools, just like in anything? Yes. I had a makeup artist in one time say, oh, it's all about the brushes. Yeah. So it really is a nice tool to use, the way it puts the paint on. The fact that it is so dense with bristles, it holds a lot of paint. Okay. So I usually tell people, if you're just planning to do one project at home, any brushes will do. Okay. But if you really plan to continue on and do more, or you're going to do your whole kitchen, you'll be so glad you brought the brush.
Okay.
Okay, so you can kind of see where that's going.
So we get the paint on, and then how long does it take to dry?
It's very quick drying because there are not sealants in the paint itself.
Okay.
It is unsealed, and so we'll show you how you use a wax to finish that. Okay. But because of that, it's very absorbent. It dries very quickly. Now, you know, Minnesota in the summer when it's humid, sometimes can take a little bit longer, but
Okay.
I won't make you wait for it to dry today. Okay,
Right.
so we'll just let that dry, but so that you don't have to literally wait for the paint to dry, I'll show you what it will look like once it is dried but has not been waxed.
Okay.
And that's the next step, is the soft wax.
Now these edges are sanded. Or they look to be sanded.
Yes.
Did you sand those down for the
We
distressing?
did.
Okay.
And what's interesting, I just used a damp cloth to do that. The paint wipes off so easily
Okay.
when it's dry that you can just take a damp cloth and take off as little or as much as you want.
Okay.
And that also controls the mess.
All right.
So I don't know if you noticed that there really is no odor to the paint.
No, there isn't.
So you can paint right in the middle of your house
Okay.
and not have to worry
Yeah,
about the smell.
That's great. And so now we're going to do the wax, and the wax does what?
The wax is what actually seals the paint.
Okay.
So when you put the wax on, you're going to brush it on just like you would the paint.
Okay.
And what's great about that, if you've ever worked with polyurethane where you had to get it just perfect,
I have, yes. It's frustrating.
it is frustrating. And if you ever get a peel or a scratch or a nick in it, it shows, and then many times you have to come back and redo the whole thing.
Can you use this wax over latex paint too, or does it have to be used over the chalk paint?
It cannot be used over latex paint because the latex paint has a sealant in it that rises
Okay.
to the top. And the
Okay.
wax needs to be able to absorb into something.
Got it.
Now you could put it on raw wood, like you could take a piece like this when the wood is unfinished,
Okay.
unsealed,
Yep.
and use it to seal the wood that way.
Okay.
But only if it has something to absorb into.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how you put the wax on. Very simple. And then once I finish, I'll just take a clean, dry cloth and wipe just to get any excess wax off.
And then how long does that take to dry?
So there really isn't a drying time with the wax. It's more about letting it harden.
Got it.
And so over 24 hours time, the white spirits will evaporate and you're left with just the solid. But when you have the right amount of wax on, it should feel dry immediately. It should feel dry to the touch.
Yeah.
And if it feels sticky or gummy, that just means you have too much on.
Okay.
So wiping off a couple of times, now feel that.
Wow.
So it feels dry to the touch.
It feels like it's not even on there. So maybe one
Yeah.
of the hardest parts is making sure you get it all over. You have to be kind of organized about applying it because you can kind of not even see that it's there or feel
Well,
that it's
and
there.
that's right. You have to look, you can see a little slight
Okay.
variation in color when you have the wax on.
Okay.
The other thing though, really I teach my students in the paint classes is that you want to learn how to feel what it should feel like. So once you've touched it when it's chalky and dry, you know
Yes.
what it feels like when it's unwaxed. And when you get too much on, you'll see what it feels like gummy and tacky.
Okay.
Then you learn right
Yeah.
where that sweet spot is.
Okay. Okay, so now we have a
So this has been
wax.
waxed.
And it's a little shiny, but almost like a satin finish.
That's right. And most of the time, people using chalk paint like that very matte finish because it
Right.
has an older look to it. But if you want it to have more of a sheen, you want to get it more like a factory finish,
Okay.
you can do that by buffing with a clean, dry cloth. Every 24 hours you can buff until it has as much sheen as you want it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So it's very versatile.
So perfect. I have a painted and waxed cupboard door.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Now
it. Now what?
Okay.
Yes.
So one fun idea that we have done quite often in my shops is that we will take that and then add a fun piece of hardware and make it into a tray. So in this case, you want to just make sure that you're picking hardware where the screw goes in from the top versus some hardware that's made for cabinets. It's meant to go in the back side of the door,
Got it.
and you wouldn't want to have that sitting on your
This is really great.
Isn't
Where,
that
where would you
beautiful?
find something like this?
You know, we spend a lot of time at architectural salvage places where you
Okay.
can find old things like that. In this scenario, I was at an estate sale, and Lord knows why, he had boxes of hardware. And of course, for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So I snatched it all up with no idea what I would do with it. But, you know, and then
And voila.
voila, here comes your need. So you just want to make sure that you pick a design that has the screw going in from the top.
And you're just kind of eyeballing it. I mean, With this, it's nice that it's got the lines
Yes.
here, and so you're able to kind of say, hey, I'm just going to match up. Or are you more precise than that typically?
I am not
Okay.
more precise than
Okay.
that. And I
Again,
think that-
check. I'm not precise
Yes.
either. Okay.
I think
so,
that's the beauty of everything in the shops because it's all done by local women. That's the beauty. I want them to see that it doesn't have to be perfect.
No. Okay.
Okay.
And this would be great, like sitting on an ottoman or something.
It would be perfect for that. It could be decorative only, or it could be functional.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's easy.
Yeah. So in that few minutes time, you've got a beautiful tray.
This would make a really nice gift too.
It would make a great gift.
That is so amazing.
Thanks. Now here I did add a little bit of dark wax, just kind of feathered that in.
That's more antique.
Yes, so the wax comes in clear and dark, and again, I would just dip this into my dark wax and just feather just a little bit of dark. Really, you're just aging it, giving it some depth, give it a little white.
So let's talk about, I happen to notice that this paint is a little bit more expensive than
Yes.
buying like a semi-gloss or something at the
Yes.
hardware store. How long is this going to last me? Like what kind of project can I do with that can of paint?
Well, that's the key. When you first hear the price point, it's $38.95 a quart.
Okay.
People gulp.
Yeah.
But once you see that you should, out of 1 quart, be able to do an entire dining room set. So you could do your table and all your chairs out of a quart.
Wow.
Or the equivalent of 4 dressers.
Okay.
So for a typical kitchen, if someone was going to redo their whole kitchen,
Yep.
it takes about 3 quarts of paint
Okay.
and 1 to 2 cans of wax.
Okay.
So you have to look at it that way. For those of us that are selling furniture that we use it on, it's about $10 per piece of furniture.
Okay.
So when you think of it that way,
That's not a big investment.
it's not a big investment.
Especially when you found that thing out on the curb.
Yes, that's right. We love curbside.
Okay. Okay, so we've got this beautiful tray. Is there anything else you can do or any other ideas you have?
Another idea, especially if we find these that don't have the beadboard in the middle but have a solid,
So it's flat?
solid panel in the middle, is that we will paint the entire door with chalk paint, and then we go and get chalkboard paint.
So this is the chalk paint right
Correct,
here. And
correct.
then this is chalkboard paint.
Exactly.
Okay.
Totally different product, meant to be written on and wiped off.
Okay.
And we'll paint the center with that. Here we've just added a simple drawer pull, and that would hold your chalk.
Yep.
And then one little piece of rope and some clothespins could hold notes, could hold pictures,
Very cute.
and then hang it right on your wall.
I love it.
So those are 2 easy ideas. They make great gifts, and it's just a fun project that you can do all in one sitting.
It is so great. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this
Yes,
information.
thank you for having
I
me.
love these. I might have to take this home with me. Okay. All right. To learn more about Mama's Happy and the projects we did today, visit our website.